presentation as well as special reasons, followed by the national anthem by Bauerle Field.
Oh, say, can oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Hello, my name is David Kozar Jr., Assistant Superintendent, Paterson Public Schools. Welcome, friends and family, to Bauerle Field for the ribbon cutting ceremony for Dr. Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse. It is dedicated to the Eastside Mighty Girls Athletic Program. Athletes create bonds with teammates built on blood, sweat, and tears. Coaches inspire greatness and demand excellence. Many athletes heard their message, but one athlete made it his vision and mission to instill hope and pride for all that wear the orange and blue. From that youngster looking out and then deciding to reach back, his name is Mr. Vaughn McCoy. A stellar athlete, a Rutgers alumnus and Hall of Famer. He wanted to make sure that every student who comes to this gate has an opportunity to experience greatness, to experience their destiny. Thank you for your vision and your vision for this program. May I tell you, thank you, because your level of commitment to the city of Paterson, Department of Recreation, and the fields show that our kids are worth having top-notch facilities. So therefore, with the parks programs that's being built, the fields that's being built, and the amount of faith that you have built into Mr. McCoy's vision shows that you have a heart and passion for our kids. I say thank you. TJ Hill, Eastside Athletic Supervisor, you have the responsibility for ensuring that Dr. Glisson and I dreams, our expectations are fulfilled. For you are the person who we turn the key over to make sure the program is successful and these kids learn the value and pride of not only being a Patersonian, but being a ghost. And so we want you to continue to push them to be great. Because the partnership we have between the City of Paterson and the Paterson Public Schools is special. When it comes to our students, both of us can truly say we are all in. We are all in to make sure that our city provides our kids the best opportunity to be successful in the classroom as well as on the fields. So now when they go to other facilities, they can say, guess what, mine's a little bit better. They have a little pride, a little swagger. I'm from P-Town. Paterson with one team. They want to make sure that they have opportunities to be great. And again, everyone, for the friends and family, there's no visitors, no guests here. Once you step on this field here, you will become a friend and a family member. So today I want to say, welcome to Eastside High School's Bauerle Field and the Dr. Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse. At this time, we will have our master of ceremony, our own mayor, Andre Slater.
Trying to shake his hand. I think because he's a Cowboys fan, he's going to hold it against me. I'm sorry about that. Let's give our assistant superintendent, Dave Cozart, a round of applause as well. Good morning, Paterson. Speaking of football, we all remember Dr. Gerald Glisson as a gentle giant. Because he was a passionate advocate, champion for our children here in the city. And I thought of him last night, Mr. Eason, when I was watching the game, because Dr. Gerald Glisson was a not so gentle Giants fan. I'm sure he's been known to throw things at the television set, because I was ready to do that yesterday. And very often what we do the next day is we would either commiserate or we would celebrate a Giants victory. So we're glad that we celebrated the Giants victory, and the big gentle giant up in heaven made sure his favorite football team won. And I think back 3 years ago, when we were here at this field house, Vaughn was here, Benji was here, Eileen was here as well. We were talking to Dr. Glisson, like I stated before, the passionate advocate and champion for children. And he said, all you had to do, if you're an opposing coach in another school district, is bring recruits here and see for themselves why they should play in Paterson. It was an argument he was making as to why we need a first-class facility for our youth. Here we are 3 years later. Dr. Glisson, you'd be proud, because this first-class facility is not only named in your honor, but now we want to bring recruits here. And now recruits want to be here, because it makes you proud to be an Eastside Ghost, and most importantly, proud to be a Patersonian. So I'm proud to be a Patersonian and a proud friend of Dr. Gerald Glisson, the gentle giant and fellow New York football Giants fan. At this time, I want to call forward a partner getting Hinchliff Stadium done, as well as other fields and recreational facilities in this city, our superintendent, Eileen Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome all of you to Bauerle Field, the home of the new Dr. Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse. This was his dream, and I know he's looking down and saying thank you for following through, and thank you for giving a state-of-the-art facility to the children in Paterson. I most especially want to say to Michelle Glisson, Sydney, and Skylar, thank you for being here today. We love you. We love Dr. Glisson, and we miss him very much. It might be tempting to think of the opening of this beautiful field house that's something that is bittersweet. I suggest that it's much more sweet than bitter. That's because we remember Dr. Glisson's motto was all, us, and we. And it was all, us, and we that put this field house together in his memory and his legacy. All of us worked hard together to make sure that our student athletes don't go to away games anymore and say, wow, look at that facility, and wow, look at that field. Because now they have the state-of-the-art field right here in Paterson at Bauerle Field and at Dr. Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse. And soon to come, to the other side of town, they will have Hinchcliffe Stadium. Our students deserve it, and now they're going to have it. You can applaud for them. Applaud for those student athletes. Applaud for them. It's all right. So I also want to thank the mayor, the city council members, the past Paterson business administrator, and Eastside alumni. Vaughn McCoy, Vaughn, it was your vision that put all this on paper and started moving it forward, and we can't thank you enough. Members of my cabinet, Assistant Superintendent David Colzart, Assemblyman and Director of Recreation Benji Wimberly, thank you all for partnering with us, working with us to ensure that our student athletes get the best, just like any other school district in the state of New Jersey. The Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse will afford many benefits to our student athletes, starting with central air conditioning and new showers, professional grade lockers, Prometheum boards that will allow teams to watch their own videos and their opponents and analyze the performances. The coaches' offices has windows that will allow them to look out to Bauerle Field. And we have new public restrooms, and the trainer's room will have a whirlpool bath. And we want to make sure that our students are taken care of, not only on the field, but if they have an injury as well. So they say to win like a champion, you need to think like a champion. The new state-of-the-art field house will make it easier for our student athletes to think and perform as champions, as we all know they can do. And so as much as we miss Dr. Glisson and wish he was with us today, we know that today we're doing much more than opening a new field house. We're keeping his legacy going. To put individual concerns aside in order to serve the greater good. To always be focused on servicing the needs of our students and our student athletes. And always to remember that we can accomplish together much more than what we can individually. And if we continue to be committed to Dr. Glisson's legacy alive and keep his memory alive forever, then we will not only be doing what he wanted, but we will be doing what the students of Paterson deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. And with all that's going to be inside this facility, the equipment, all the rooms, the technology, this should give our student athletes a competitive edge against their opponents. No pressure, Coach Magazine, where is he? We're expecting undefeated seasons as a result of this field house. I mean that. So at this time, I want to call forward a gentleman who introduced me to Dr. Gerald Glisson. More than just a friend, he's a brother to Dr. Glisson. And he's another passionate advocate and champion for the children here in the city of Paterson. He's been doing it so long that we've lost count of all the years. We don't count the years. We make the years count. Ladies and gentlemen, our director of the Division of Recreation, our assemblyman here in the 35th Legislative District, and one of the most successful head coaches here in the city, Benji Wimberly.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, Superintendent. More importantly, Michelle, Sid, and Sky, Bert, all the family that's here. To the good brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Lambda Epsilon Chapter, who's always here in support, our sisters at Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated, council members. This is really a great day. And I tell Michelle the story all the time. The first time when you and G got married, we were moving, and you came and checked out our townhouse we were moving out of, and we discovered we were fraternity brothers. And that 21 years of friendship was unbelievable, because we went from talking to getting him to coach Little League football, to coaching with me, to leaving corrections, to become a teacher. And I remember him getting walked through the whole process of getting emergency certification, and then administrator. And his life, I mean, he did a lot of great things. And I remember all those days working on his doctorate, talking to him. And there was never a time that he didn't ride down the street and stop and talk. And his mentorship to my boys and to so many men in our community is invaluable. His legacy is unbelievable. I mean, you look at the Eastside coaching staff now and administration, that's what legacy is all about. And each time he told me, this one's a rock star, this one's good, he just always had positive affirmations when it came to people. And when you have that type of energy, you know. But he kept it real. Like, if you was being soft, he let you know, cut them cookie fillings out, stop being so soft. It ain't cold out here, suck it up, you know. And that part, I miss those conversations with him. More importantly, coaching with him, I don't know if people understand how great of a coach he was. I mean, he taught a kid who never played football in his life, named Jeremy Lewis, who went out to be an All-American and play at Rutgers, how to play football in your garage, in the driveway. And the boy never played football in his life, and he went out to be the number 16 player in the country. And Dante Burton, and the list goes on and on and on. And his way of motivating not only the players, but our fellow coaches. Like, if our coaches was getting a little, he was my check man. He put them in check. So G was a great coach, an educator, more importantly, a husband and a father, but a friend. And I mean, literally lived by our motto that friendship was essential to the soul. And Vaughn, I can't thank you enough. Me and you've been friends our whole life, literally. And same thing, played Little League and everything else together. And your vision for this, I think, I remember it was the summertime you came here. And I saw it, and it was just unbelievable, and it was just emotional, because I know how valuable this was. And G was so excited, because we always laughed about Mag and TJ and Deke. This field was rock and dirt, and we never had heat. I coached here for 6 years, and we didn't have heat in the wintertime. And people used to be like, how are those kids so tough? I said, come to one of our practices, you'll see how tough those kids are. Because if you finish practice, you threw your socks away. And you had scrapes and bruises. And so when we got to turf in real games, it was simple. So that was G. Toughness, no excuses. And, you know, to the young folks out here, one thing, if you want to live Dr. G's legacy, you want to make sure that our kids are great, you know, what the mayor is doing with the development in the community. Let them be grateful and let them understand how blessed they are because of people like Dr. Glisson. God bless. Have a great day.
And the Assemblyman holds the distinction of coaching the last game at Hinchcliffe Stadium, and you won that game. Is that correct? Very good. Thank you.
Oh, wait, TJ Hill was on that team.
TJ Hill was on that team, so he can testify a little bit later. He's been mentioned a few times, and in his own right, one of the greatest success stories to ever come out of this city. Graduated from Eastside High School, 1986. Deacon Alex Robinson was a part of that class, Pastor William Cash as well, so it was quite the class to come out of Eastside. He's an Eastside High School Hall of Famer. And then he went on to Rutgers, where he also has been inducted into their Hall of Fame as well. But 3+ years ago, he was the city's business administrator. And he had a vision. And he brought us all down here so that we can witness what his vision was. You've heard the African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. But a village also needs a vision. And I'm glad that our village has a visionary in Vaughn going forward. We're so glad that he brought us down here. Guess who had 1,000,001 questions about what this is going to look like? Dr. Gerald Glisson. Because he expected the best. He had high expectations for all of us. Why not? Challenged us. He asked every question imaginable about what this facility would be like and what it was going to provide for our youth. So at this time, I'm going to call forward that visionary leader, our Hall of Famer here in the city of Paterson, Mr. Vaughn McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor. It's cold, so I'm not going to be long. But I went into the archives of my basement the other day, and I pulled out some photos of me in the fieldhouse some 30-some years ago. And Jeff Furman, who was the strength and conditioning coach at Penn State, came here for a clinic. And this is me, and I'll show you the pictures, in the fieldhouse here doing some resistance exercises. And as the assemblyman said, you know, when I played here, rocks, and Beckford can testify to that, Eddie Hill and others can testify to the rocks that were in the field. But when I came back to Paterson as a business administrator back in 2018, I asked the mayor, I said, Mayor, I'll be happy to come and serve with you in the city, but there are a few things I want you to really pay attention to. And there were three things. One is happening up the street right now, the old Armory, Charles Forio's project that's going on right now. Hinscliff Stadium was the second, and this was the third. And I said, if you can just work with me on these three projects, because I think as those three projects go, Paterson goes. And he said, Vaughn, I promise you, I will work with you on restoring those projects. And so he stayed true to his word. And I remember coming here with Dr. Glisson, and we walked around the whole stadium, and he talked about putting an airplane hangar over here until we got this done so that the kids can have an opportunity to work out in the airplane hangar. But thanks to the Schaefer, the city council, obviously Dr. Mims, Cotton, and so many other people who signed off on this, to the Glisson family, your husband was a great man. And I remember meeting him for the first time, even though he wasn't from Paterson, he always respected the legacy of Patersonians. And whenever I would come to town, he would give me Eastside gear. He would tell me that he watched old film that Coach Pelosi had in the office when he was the athletic director. So we always respected the history. And so I'm just proud to be here. It's about the Glisson family today. But man, it just feels good to be home and to see what we've done here. And I got to get used to calling it Bauerle Field, because coming up, it was always School 15. You know, if you're from Paterson, you say School 15, so now I know it's Bauerle Field, but, you know, the Dr. Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse is a great tribute to a great man. Thank you, Coach Magazine, and so many others who had a hand in making sure that this thing got done. So, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate it.
Vaughn will be sharing those pictures a little bit later. Also want to acknowledge Dr. Gerald E Glisson's beloved fraternity, Omega Psi Phi, the Paterson Qs. Give them a round of applause. Always appreciate them, especially whenever there was an event, like a sweetheart dance that you hosted. He was at the front desk and made sure that I brought a check, because I don't know who circulated the rumor that I tried to get in for free, Benji. But I always paid when he was at the front desk. I'm not saying what happened when he wasn't at the front desk. That's right, that's why he was at the front desk. He was that good. He was tough. Thank you again, Vaughn. We're profoundly grateful for your leadership, and I'm profoundly grateful for your friendship. He's right. Can't do anything without a city council, if you know government. And you have to have a city council that shares your vision so that we can share the victory. So we're proud to have 2 members of the municipal council that share our vision to make sure that our student athletes, our youth, have first-class facilities. And they can brag about it to their counterparts in other municipalities. So ladies and gentlemen, we're joined today by the former mayor and current councilwoman from the 4th Ward, Ruby N. Cotton, and councilwoman at large, Dr. Lalisa Mims.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Let me say good morning to everyone. And to Michelle and to the girls, this is so bittersweet for me. It's 25 years. Coach Davis, he was here in 1999 when this field house was awful. And I say when we started putting money into it from the city council, you know, they were saying, oh, we don't own it. I don't care who don't own it. We need to get it fixed. And I say that this is so, I remember doing the field back there, but to say that our kids deserve the best, yes, they do deserve the best. And I'm just grateful. I am so grateful that I'm still here to see this start. When you can see something getting started, and it's 20 years later. And I always say to people, it don't happen overnight, but it will happen. And it will happen. And I remember Eddie always loved coming up here to talk to Joel. And you know, they wanted to start the programs. And I want to make a pledge to my Omega brothers. Please, Eddie and Joel wanted to do something here, mentoring the boys. I need you to come in here and help with our young people because they need so much help. And you know, you never know what you can do for each other. And you don't know what words might say. But I want to say to everyone who had a hand in this, and Councilwoman Mims and I, we were putting money in here way before we thought about Gerald Glisson. And then when we had the opportunity to do this, Councilwoman Mims and I said we want to name this field house after a great man who loved our children dearly. And Michelle, and to the girls, I would love you dearly because he touched so many people. He touched so many kids. You know, I'm a ghost really, starting in 66, starting in 64, 71, 75, 85. My whole family went to Eastside High School. So I'm happy to stand here today, 20 years later, to see this, just to see this. And Coach Davis knew what we went through back in the 90s. And the kids didn't have showers, and we was feeding them, and we were doing everything. But they still succeed. So now we have a facility that is wonderful, it's awesome. Thanks to Ali Schaefer, our superintendent, my assemblyman Benji Wembley, our mayor. And sometimes you have to make people understand. You can't see it, but it's gonna happen at the end. You know, you have to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you can't see. And when you have a vision, I can see this, and I'm happy that God has allowed me to be here today to see this naming of Dr. Gerald Glisson Field House that we dearly needed for so many years. I thank you all, Michelle. I love you dearly, the girls, and I just know that my Omega brothers over here are going to do what I want them to do. Thank you. God bless you all. And now I have Councilwoman Mims coming up.
Good morning, everyone. So I just want to acknowledge our Assemblyman Benji Wembley, our Superintendent, Ms. Schaefer, our Mayor, to my sorority sister, Michelle, Skylar, Sydney, to the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, my link sister, Auntie, as I call her. Today is a great day. And a lot of times we don't really understand when we are in the presence of greatness, when we're sitting around it, when they're encouraging us, when they're giving us wisdom and tools of knowledge. When I think about Dr. Gerald Glisson, I used to call him my little brother. And then when I crossed, when I crossed over, I cried because I was remembering him in my ear that he would be like, oh, now I'm the big one. And there's just so many little things that I can talk about when they were feeding at the White House and the conversation we had, the text messages. I will cherish every message, every text, every dinner we had at the Foxworth House, the opportunity he gave my daughter to be a supervisor here at Eastside, which is my alma mater, and so many great things. We gave this resolution previously, and when I heard that my sorority sister didn't have one of her own, I had to make sure that we present this proclamation that was done, sponsored with the renaming of this field house, sponsored by Councilwoman Dr. Lisa Mims, co-sponsored by Councilwoman Cotton and Louis Beleg, and it was unanimously approved by the entire council. And I wanted to make sure that the Brugs were represented in their colors. Thank you so much. God bless you. This is well needed for our children. And Dr. Glisson, I know he's shining. He's smiling and is shining greatly today. Thank you. God bless.
do want to also acknowledge, Ruby mentioned, we lost another legend, Eddie Cotton, as well. And Ruby, what I often do, to let everyone know, my favorite heavyweight champion was Riddick Bowe. And I always watched the Riddick Bowe Andrew Galata fight in Atlantic City, which was wild. And Eddie Cotton was the referee. He had his hands full in that fight. If you get a chance, watch that fight and see Eddie Cotton in action, how good of a referee he was when he had two guys, both over 250 pounds, 6'5" each, his height, and he had to contend with them. So may he rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Eddie. This time I want to call forward two members of the Paterson Board of Education who also joined us today. We have Commissioner Manny Martinez and Dr. Glisson's fraternity brother, Dr. Vince Arrington, soon to be speaking into an existence.
Good morning to everyone. I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here today. Thank you to our team, thank you Dr. Mim, Ruby, Vaughn, Andre, and everybody who had a hand in bringing today to fruition. This is a stellar day for our students in the city of Paterson. To the Glisson family, to the Glisson family, to the honor of the legacy of amazing
Good morning. So on behalf of the board, first I want to thank the city of Paterson, their staff, Councilwoman Lisa Mims and Ruby Cotton for upgrading the Dr. Gerald E Glisson Fieldhouse. Our children deserve a facility that's comparable to surrounding communities. Also want to thank the Paterson Public School System for also renaming this facility. I told Mrs. Glisson the other day that Dr. Glisson is a brand. That brand represents perseverance, humility, and excellence. The Dr. Glisson legacy will carry on. The Fieldhouse will stand for never giving up, always doing your best consistently, and giving 100% in everything you do. Thank you, Michelle, Skylar, Sidney, for allowing us to carry on the legacy of the gentle giant. Thank you. We love you.
Unfortunately, our Congressman, Bill Pasquale, could not make it here this morning. However, we do want to express our gratitude to him because this project cost over $1.6 million. And it's federal funding that's made it possible. Community Development Block Grant funding that we always appreciate. And we put it to the best use possible here in the city. So we're also honored to have with us the supervisor of athletics here at Eastside High School, a young man who earned the last victory at Hinchliffe Stadium. He's got good taste in baseball teams. He's a New York Mets fan. TJ Hill, orange and blue, baby.
First of all, I want to acknowledge everyone's attendance today, all the dignitaries. I want special thanks to our superintendent, Ms. Schaefer, my big brother, Assembly Wembley, to the city of Paterson, Mayor Andre Sayer, to my boss, Assistant Superintendent David Kozar, our principal at the Nieves, to the brothers of Megaside Fire. You can see the impact that Dr. Glisson had. We had educators here. We had part of the fraternity here. We had members of that he played athletics with. We actually had his family. So this all is a representation of him. So to be here today, this is a story moment. Michelle, Scott, Sid, as long as I'm here, put the magazine here in the presence of Eastside High, this man's name, this man's brand, this man's legacy is going to continue on. I'm actually here today because of him. For years, for the magazine, he could allude to this that he's like, big little brother. He's always calling me little brother. I need you to come back home. I need you to come back home. And I had other things going on in my life regarding what I was doing in my career. And it's unfortunate that I came back under circumstances. I'm here today. So, is someone that you hear, big brother? That we here, and your brand is never going down. Thank you.
anything away from this announcement, this is where champions come to play. They will be champions. They are champions. They'll continue to be champions. And Dr. Glisson was a champion for all the children. And it's only fitting that we hear his champions, the champion, and his family. So at this time, let's give a warm welcome to Sidney Glisson.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start my speech, I'm going to give a background to a little story, a little joke that I had with my father. Many days after school, me and my sister would come here to the fieldhouse to spend time with my dad. And I always joked with him about changing my name. When you get married, you change your maiden name to your husband's name. And he said, well, you're not going to change yours. You're going to keep Glisson forever. And I said, well, the only way I'm going to do that is if they name the building after you. Well, okay. On behalf of the Glisson family, I would sincerely like to thank you all for being here for such a momentous occasion. Today is more than just a renaming and a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Today is a day that solidifies the legacy of my father, Dr. Gerald E Glisson, at Eastside High School and in Paterson history. As you all may know, the love my father had for the city of Paterson was tremendous. The only love that topped it, besides the love for his family, of course, was his love for the Paterson student athletes. My father, a former student athlete himself, held a special place in his heart for them. He wanted to see them excel in the classroom as well as on the field. I'm sure he would be extremely proud of all that they have accomplished since his passing in May of 2020. This field house that now will bear his name will forever be a reminder of the love that he had for them. It is my hope that the student athletes, coaches, and all who enter this space and these doors will see the Glisson name and be reminded of his attributes: passion, hard work, dedication, discipline, confidence, and above all else, the love of the family. These are attributes that my father not only instilled in my sister and I, but as well as all the youth that he encountered in his 15 years of service in the Paterson Public Schools District. My family and I would like to give a special thank you to the Paterson Municipal Council for voting and making this moment possible. We would also like to thank and acknowledge the Eastside Athletics Department as well as Paterson Public Schools for their relentless support. Let us continue to celebrate today by keeping my father's legacy alive. Long live Dr. Gerald E Glisson.
Thank you, Sidney. I know it wasn't easy, but I'm so glad that you shared that story, that we named the building after your father. You're going to keep the Glisson name. And that name will always be alive. And his legacy will always be alive. We know the positive impact that he had on the lives here in the city of Paterson. And so he was a proponent of paying it forward. And we're paying it forward with a first-class facility in memory of a first-class human being. So at this time, let's cut the ribbon on the new Dr. Gerald E. Glisson Fieldhouse in the city of Paterson.